Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lakewood Health System's Be Well Videocast. My name is Matt Jensen, Director of Marketing at Lakewood, and today we're going to be talking about preparing your kids for the new school year with COVID-19. What does that look like? Some tips and some strategies for parents to help their children with some of the stressors and strains of that. And here to discuss that with me today is Nicole Linkert. She is a licensed clinical social worker who provides therapy and counseling to both adults and children of all ages. And I want to welcome her today. Nicole, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to be with you.
My first question for you today is, as you know, back to school season is shaping up to be unlike any other that we've seen here before. And as kids, parents, teachers, and schools start this new year, there's still so many questions about exactly how this year is going to go with COVID-19. We've heard a lot about different learning programs. We've heard about all in person. We've heard about online learning, hybrid systems. There's just a lot of uncertainty and certainly a lot of anxiety with parents and children alike. Could you talk to us a little bit about what are some strategies that parents could utilize to really try to help their kids prepare for the upcoming year?
Yeah, just like us as adults, our kids, they really feel anxious about the things that they don't know about or the things that they're unsure of. And certainly this school year will be unlike any other. And so it's really important to help our kids understand what changes they can expect with school this year, and so that we can try to help them relieve that anxiety and uncertainty. Okay, so if your kids are returning to school this year, go ahead and talk with them about what new rules are going to be in place at school, such as masking and social distancing. In these last few days before school starts, take some time to talk about and practice with your kids how to put on their mask and how to take it off safely. Practice wearing a mask at home for even just short periods of time and try to make it fun. Maybe you decide to sit down as a family and play a board game together, and you all agree that you're going to wear your masks while you're having fun. And I know some of this can sound or feel really silly, but these things will help our kids get into the habit of needing to mask every day for school. And, every school's doing things a little bit differently, but a lot of our area schools have already been putting out information about the new rules that they'll have in place for social distancing. And so if you've heard about what your school's doing, what their new rules will be, go ahead and talk about that ahead of time with your kids. Maybe explain to them how desks are going to be spread out in their classrooms and lunchtime is going to look different this year. And some of these things might be really hard for our kids to understand, especially for our younger kids. They really thrive off of having that physical contact with people that they care about. And it might be hard for them to understand why they can't high-five their friends in gym class, or why our kindergartners can't give their teacher a hug at the end of the day. And so just take some time to talk with them about how these rules are to keep everyone safe and to keep us from spreading the germs that can make us sick. And finally, I think another important thing that's really going to be helpful for us to prepare our kids for is the expectation that even these new rules will probably change this year. Our principals and our teachers, they've been doing a great job of trying to think outside the box to make school as safe as possible for our kids. But we know that there will be adjustments and changes to those rules as all of the kinks are worked out. And certainly if, whatever course this virus decides to take this school year, that we'll need to be flexible and make some adjustments. So our kids should expect that.
Really some fantastic suggestions, Nicole. Thank you for that. I love the idea of doing some practicing around the home, especially with young children, to get them sort of prepared for the upcoming season, wearing the mask in the house. Great suggestions on that. Talk a little bit also, Nicole, if you could. Now, this can be an emotional time for them as well, too, and those children might start to feel some of those as well and express those to parents as well, too. What are some of the ways that parents can help children deal with some of the emotional strains associated with going back to school and COVID-19 itself?
Yeah, so sitting with all of this uncertainty is really creating a lot of anxiety for us as parents and for our kids. And, sitting with uncertainty is stressful for everyone. But really, research shows that It's when we try to fight that uncertainty that we actually feel worse, okay? So now I'm a really firm believer that it is important to allow ourselves and our kids the time and space that we need to feel difficult emotions and to honor them. And we can expect that our kids might feel nervous, confused, maybe even sad, and that's okay. Okay, as parents, I know that we feel the urge to right away want to make our kids feel better. But first, we really need to kind of validate their experience. Our kids need to know that we understand how they're feeling, and we can help them to know that their feelings are okay. Right? Of course, though, it's not helpful to stay in that negative place for too long. Okay, it's important that we learn to accept situations that we can't control and accept the emotions that come with those situations, but then to also move towards coping with them. Okay, so in a world that feels like so much is out of our control, we can help our kids to focus on what they can control. Okay, and one way to do this is to acknowledge the things that are different this school year and also the things that are the same. All right, so you can say things to your kids like, something different about this school year is that you won't ride the bus to school with your friends every day, and that's really disappointing. Something that's the same is that we will make sure that you get to school every day on time, right? Or maybe you say to your kids, it's such a bummer that you don't get to choose who you sit by at lunch. I'm really glad that you get to choose who you play with at recess, right? And, you know, if you're homeschooling this year or doing online learning, we can focus on the positives of that too, such as, you know, I'm glad that we're going to get to have extra time together as a family, or I'm looking forward to having lunch with you every day and going for a walk after lunch, right? So focusing on the positives of whatever reality we're living in is a really powerful way to cope with stress. And, you know, you'll also want to talk to your kids about what they can do at school or out in the community if they don't feel safe, right? Or if they see other kids or adults who aren't following the rules, they should know that they can talk to their teacher at school, or they can talk to you about what they're experiencing if that happens to be the case.
Great advice. I love the idea of focusing on the positive. I also love the idea of focusing on what we can control. I think even adults, so much has been out of our control these last several months. So I think that's great advice. Wonderful advice for all of us. And then finally, Nicole, I guess I would ask, as you had mentioned earlier, there's a very strong possibility that we might get 2 weeks in, we might get a month into the school year, and everything could change. You know, maybe we go from in person to all online. We just don't know where COVID-19 is going to take us in our school year. So if that were to happen, if we're looking at how do we help those kids deal with some of that, what can be also a very stressful change for them as well too, mid-school year or early in the school year?
Yeah, you're right. And like I mentioned earlier, something we can do right now is help prepare our kids for the idea that things might change in the future, right? And you know, our kids they're really adjusting to this just as we all are. And luckily kids are really resilient by nature. But as parents, we can model that resiliency too. Okay, it's important for us to show how we can be flexible, how we're adapting to change, and how we're trying to focus on the positives also, that those are all just really important life skills to have. And COVID-19 has definitely been a great teaching moment to develop those skills for all of us. Right? And parents, they can tell their kids that, you know, if anything changes with school this year, we will work together as a team to come up with a new plan. Or to tell them that, you know, the adults and the teachers, that we will figure out a way to keep you safe and also a way to keep you learning and connecting with your friends.
Okay. Wonderful information, Nicole. Really great stuff today. I appreciate your time on this too. And one of the other things I just want to point out to our listeners as well is for those children, those adults who may be struggling exponentially with the stressors and strains of COVID or going back to school or whatever the case might be, Lakewood Health System does have behavioral health services at both its Staples and its Pillager Clinic. So if someone felt the need to set up an appointment with yourself or another one of the therapists at Lakewood, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Patients or parents, they can go ahead and connect with their primary care provider, and they can request a referral to see one of our therapists here.
All right, perfect. So yes, getting in touch with that your primary care provider, getting the ability to that referral to see that therapist, simple, very easy to do here again in Staples and in Pillager. So Nicole, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing such wonderful information. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Matt. It was great to be with you.